Wow. Bloomberg.com. The richest generation in U.S. history just keeps getting richer. Even after they retire, affluent Americans are growing wealthier thanks to the strong stock market. It's the Ponzi scheme. All right? Oh, man. Because they got in the ground floor. And they're riding that elevator all the way to the top. And for the successive generations, well, I mean, they're talking about baby boomers. My generation, their kids, their immediate offsprings, or for the most part, well, this is the thing. This is the disparity. This is the divide. The people that had kids early, for the most part, and had to raise those kids, they didn't go into government positions. They didn't go into academia, per se, right? But those who did, those who put off having a family, those who didn't give a fuck about family propagating the species, it was all about money, status. We're showing just how immoral and corrupt and massively corrupted these people are. Baby boomers started turning 65 in 2011, marking the unofficial beginning of their retirement years. The timing could not have been better for older boomers, who are already part of the wealthiest generation in U.S. history. Since then, the broad S&P 500 stock index is up 91%, including dividends. U.S. stocks, including dividends. U.S. stocks hit a record high yesterday. Market performance in the early years of retirement is a crucial worry for anyone living off a nest egg. In the worst case scenario, stocks crash just as retirees start spending their savings, leaving them in a hole they can no longer earn their way out of. Older boomers have experienced what is arguably the best case scenario. The S&P 500 has returned 269% since its March 2009 low. As a recent study in the Journal of Financial Planning shows, wealthy retirees can be very cautious about spending down their savings. This instinct, along with the stock market's new record, suggests that many baby boomers are likely to end up with far more money than they know what to do with. Are you seeing them share? So those people, I mean, when you talk about these are people, if they're the head of finance, corporations, businesses, right? Government, fuck. That's who they are. That's really what we're talking about, people. It's not your lowly people, not your mom and dad that worked in the mechanics or in the lumber or manufacturing or the stuff that actually provides everything that you lay your eyes upon. It's not those people. It's those that didn't even care about raising their kids per se. That's even those that might have had kids but put them on the back burner for wealth, right? For cronyism. I mean, they're going to have more money than they know what to do with. And then we've already seen, remember the article? I don't know if I said it on video, but I definitely shared it on my pages of how their parents, the greatest generations, the one that come out of World War II and stuff like that, they have a big, like, trillions of dollars of wealth that they're going to leave to the baby boomers. So in addition to all this massive amounts of wealth that these boomers are gaining and benefit from the speculative market, from the casino, from being able to suppress and oppress their offspring, from paying them barely even a living wage. I mean, look at what you're looking around today, the younger generations that are just barely striving and starving, just scraping to get by, but these fucks are living like kings and queens, and then they still have trillions of dollars that are going to be handed down them from their parents. I mean, they're going to be fucking swimming in money and wealth. Are you seeing them sharing? All you people that are all about, forget about using government, You might want to try to use government to force them to share with you. But in reality, I mean, my parents aren't that rich. But even then, I would never want to use government as a means. If they don't want to give me anything, I don't want to force someone to give me something. If they didn't care for me enough to want to share, or if my employer doesn't think that I'm worthy of more than just barely scraping by, I think they're immoral and just the injustice is rampant in that case. But I don't want to use force to force them to do it. But that's what they like doing to us. Yeah, it's hard to turn the other fucking cheek. I get it, man. I get why there's a lot of fucking lefties and people and these young millennials that want to vote in people like Bernie Sanders, but it's just not the right way to do it. It's just not the right way to do it. Because even though I see where you want to harm them, but you just keep propagating that. And if you do that and use force and violence, that becomes the norm. And then that builds up on you as part of your character, and then you'll propagate. I don't want to keep this cycle continuing, is what I'm all about. And I don't want to be the one to always be the sacrificial lamb. That's not what I'm all about. I actually hate that. But we have to stand strong and firm in our convictions and our principles. Let these old fucks, let them have their wealth. There's a lot better things in life than wealth. Wealth, I mean, all that money, the yacht, all that stuff. And take it from me, I've never had a whole lot of money. I've done decent in my life in stages, certain stages, and it was pretty good. And I had lots of things, man. Ask anyone who know me. I have wheelers, like one of the fastest I built one of the fastest four-wheelers in all on the East Coast. And actually, not just the East Coast, I think in Canada, but I wasn't living in this part of the country. I was living in the East Coast at the time. But I had an amazing machine. My car, I was always at the top of the game, raced in any way. But I've had motorcycles, street bikes, fast race cars, amazingly fast forward. There's people that would look at me, and they did. I seen that. They hated me and they envied me for having a few things. But even then, I was like, I was nobody really. I was good at managing my money and my expenses and balancing all that stuff out. But I recognize that envy and trying to steal or suppress others, it's the wrong way to go, because I've seen people do that to me. It's like, wait a minute. Bringing me down is not a way to bring you up. You can try to bring me down, but it's still not going to prop you up. And for these wealthy people, let me reiterate, or let me finish off what I was saying. Those things weren't what brought true happiness in my life. My kids, my loving relationship with my wife, some of the great friends that I've had over the course of my life. Those are the things that have brought true happiness in my life. Any amount of wealth that it's nice to have. Don't get me wrong. It is nice to have. Anyone that says otherwise is just kidding themselves. Who doesn't like to have toys and things that money does allow you the ability to have some fun and experience things that you might not be able to do if you didn't have money. But it is not the end all be all. Believe me, it's not. And anyone that's being truthful and objectively honest with you will tell you the same thing. There becomes a point when we all should at least be able to have, be treated to the point where we can at least gain properly percentage-wise for all the input we put in. I don't think, for the amount of work and effort I put into my life, have I been rewarded even remotely close to that? No. And I'm bitter in some aspects for that, but like I say, it's not the end all be all. My family, my close ties to my family, those things have put a smile on my face that allows me to do what I do, which is why I do what I do. That's what gives me my strength. That's what gives me my character. And being knocked out a few times has also helped build my character. The rich people they lack that. And they lack the principles, the character, the drive, the zeal. So I don't think you could give me all that money in the world. If it means that I would be them, I'll reject that money. I don't want to be them. Money and wealth is putting off reality and living in a delusion and hoping that will maintain your happiness, which is a failing model. Older boomers have experienced what is arguably the best case scenario. Okay. Researchers followed the spending and inverting behavior of 65 to 70-year-olds from 2000 to 2008. The poorest 40% of the survey respondents generally spent more than they earned. Anyways, this is all now just gets into the weeds as far as like different levels of the wealth that the boomers have accumulated, depending on who they are. Anyways, let me get down to, in other words, these affluent Americans retired and then continued to get richer. That's quite a feat when you're no longer working, particularly against the backdrop of the mediocre stock market of the early 2000s. It's not exactly irrational for wealthy people to be cautious about spending their money. As financial planner Michael Keats notes, retirees face many risks. They could live longer than expected and then face huge healthcare expenses or higher than expected inflation, and the market could crash again. For now at least, wealthy boomers have a lot more money to spend than they had any right to expect in the depths of the 2008 financial crisis. But that's the thing. The boomers were the ones that get to pull all the strings. They were part of the political process. They were, I mean, you know, when you get to write the rules in your favor, and think about it, when they say taxpayer bailouts, the boomers get to steal from their successive generations to keep their entitled lifestyles going. Not just going, but flourishing and increasing and exceeding even their own expectations. So yeah, I mean, the immorality, I mean, we were all seeing it, you know. It's rampant, it's profound, it's undeniable. But you know what? Like I've said on many occasions, and at least multiple occasions on the videos I've made, nature, whether you believe in God or karma, one fortunate thing that we always got to hold on to is we come into this world as a dependent and we go out of this world as a dependent. And it's not just a one-day thing. It happens over a prolonged period. So when you're a child, you're dependent on your parents for a certain amount of years. When you are these wealthy, rich baby boomers that are now just enjoying the benefits of all this central planning, this theft, this forced subjugation, just keep in the back of your mind that at some stage of the game, they're going to all become dependents. They're going to all rely on their successive generations, whether those in the medical or in healthcare services, their families, you know, long-term, like homes to provide for them. They're all going to become reliant on everyone else. They're going to become dependents once again. That's undeniable. Even if they can prolong it for a little while, they're not immortal, and they're not going to become immortals. They are all going to have to acknowledge and own up and meet face on. They're going to have to hold that mirror up and realize that everything that they've done, now their futures, now their vulnerabilities are going to be exposed, and now they're going to have to rely on all their successive generations that they've screwed over for years and years, for decades. Those are the people that they're going to have to rely on at their latter stages of life. Which is why, and I've said this also too in a prior video, which is why they're trying to bring in all these foreigners and these immigrants because they're not their offspring. So they're hoping that those people will take care of them, because they know their offspring is going to recognize at some stage of the game that they're not going to take care of their old fucking goddamn vicious, evil, sadistic grandparents and parents. It's not going to happen. That's why they're bringing these immigrants in. They need someone to take up that cause, to take the place of their family members, of their successive generations. But there's just not going to be enough of them. And in reality, those people will work off of economic incentives. And because they're not family, they have no personal or economic incentive, because the wealthy fucks, their wealth will be destroyed eventually. They will no longer have that wealth to keep someone to propagate them, to take care of them in the latter years. This is all going to come to fruition. The boomers have been living high and high and high and high. But when you get real high, like I've always said, when you're that high off the ground, the fall is that much further and that much more dangerous. That is truth. That is the reality they're going to have to reckon in the future. And that's not that far away. Time goes by, and it gets quicker as you get older. Time isn't marching on, like it or not. It's Canadian Libertarian. I love liberty.